I think a couple things here as we get going. One, it was a great opportunity for me last weekend to get to the Elite Eight and watch the run that our basketball team went on and watch the energy and the passion and heck of a season those guys had, and fired up for Coach Terry and the opportunity he got now to be the true head coach now and moving forward. So excited for him. And that was a great opportunity. I think for our team now in spring practice, we had practice number 8 today. So just over halfway done. And I like the progress that we're making. I think that we're in this phase now of we've got ourselves through base installation, and now we're really trying to work on the situations of the game and trying to teach really well as a staff that way, whether it's 3rd down, 4th down, fringe, red zone, 2-minute, tempo, all the things that make up the game of football is really where we're at from a coaching perspective. And I think that our players are responding well to it. We'll get a chance to scrimmage a little bit more here this Saturday, to cut it loose and let guys play, and try to tie it all together and put the players in those situations as they come in game, and see who can respond and who can digest the situation, understand the call, then play the situation as it is, because ultimately that's what the game is made up of. So I like the progress that we're making. I think that things are moving in a positive direction for us.
Thanks, Coach. Ed, go ahead and start us off.
Coach, with the new guys, is it difficult when you talk about teaching? Do you have to unteach some of the stuff they did in high school, teach the Texas way, teach the Steve Sarkisian way? Is that difficult for those young guys when they come to campus to get around you and your coaches?
I think it varies from player to player. I think that, some guys, it just happens quicker than others, whether it's understanding scheme, whether it's understanding, effort, whether it's understanding physicality, whether it's understanding discipline of within the play and what my responsibility is, whether it's understanding multiple spots, because we're trying to figure guys out what they're best at and what they can do in all 3 phases. So I hate to lump them all into one. There are some guys, it is a little bit difficult. Probably that's mostly because they had really good coaches, right? And they coach something a certain way or a scheme a certain way. And so when you've got really good habits, or when it becomes a habit, sometimes those are harder to break. But inevitably, I think we have to have some caution to just saying every guy's that way. We have to look at each new player individually and what do they need from us? How do they learn? As much as they're learning what we do, how we do, and why we do, we're learning them too, right? How to push the right buttons to keep them motivated, how to push the right buttons so they can learn the best way they can, and then ultimately putting them in the best position to have some success so they can build their confidence and continue to grow.
Chip, go ahead.
Steve, as much as I wanted to ask you this, when I saw you at the Elite Eight, I was respectful of your your basketball time. But where have you seen the most progress from Quinn, and what should it look like in year 2 for him? And then also, what are you seeing from Alfred Collins?
Yeah. I think a couple of things from Quinn. I think Quinn had a really good winter conditioning kind of off season. I think he got himself in really good shape. He definitely feels more comfortable. You can almost a sense of, he's throwing the ball very naturally, very comfortably. I think from a decision-making standpoint, the reads are just happening that much quicker, that much more decisive. I think the management of our style of offense, right? The shifts, the motions, the tempos, the varying tempos, all those things of handling that aspect of the game, I think you're seeing growth. I think it just looks like a guy who's in year 2 and is growing into year 2 from a comfort level. Not perfect. And I don't expect him to be perfect right now. I mean, we challenge him every day, and The defense is challenging the offense every day, and we're putting new things in. There's some things we're looking at that maybe we haven't decided, are we going to put and have as a part of our offense? And so that can be challenging on a quarterback because there's some newness to what we're doing. But at the end of the day, I just think his comfort level, but also I think his intent, right? I mean, he was very intentional this offseason of getting himself in a really good space physically and mentally. And I think it's showing throughout the first 8 practices. I think Alford has taken another step, right? We talked a lot about Alford a year ago about, it wasn't about the talent, it was about the consistency in the play and his style of play. And when Alford plays that way, which he's doing right now, where he's consistent at the point of attack, he can use his length. He has great athleticism. He can close on the ball. When he plays really violent, like he's doing right now, he's a real problem. And I think that we've seen that here the first half of spring from him.
Jeff Jones, go ahead.
Coach, the first thing you mentioned on the call was the Elite Eight run. We've seen you at a few of the games. You talked about your relationship with RT. Is there anything that you can take from watching that basketball run and apply it to your guys on the football field?
Yeah, I think something that team had this year, which I was really impressed with. They had a lot of maturity, right? They were an older team kind of in general. And I never felt like they got out of whack where the moment got too big or adversity was too much for them to handle. You could feel as we like to say around here, player-led mentality. I mean, you could feel that even in that game when things weren't great late. You could feel the veteran presence. You could feel those guys communicating, talking. There was really good communication amongst the players and the coaches, and then player to player on the court. Those are all the things that you look for, because adversity is going to strike. And as much as we want to be on the field with our guys, a lot of times they have to solve some of those issues on their own on the field. And I thought that our basketball team did a really nice job of that throughout the year in a very tough conference, and to be Big 12 tournament champs the way they did it, and to go through kind of the gauntlet of our season, and then to make the run that they made in the tournament. They got faced with adversity on and off the court. But I think the veteran leadership they had, I thought really shined through. And I thought that was something definitely to take away from their season this year.
Kirk, go ahead.
Steve, could you name a couple or 3 players that are really pressing for either a starting position or a lot more playing time than they had last year?
Yeah. I think one guy that stands out to me right now is Keaton Crawford, who tremendous special teams player for us a year ago. I think he was Big 12 special teams player of the year. This guy was fantastic. He's playing really well at safety for us right now. He's communicating at a high level. He's making plays on the ball. He's playing fast. He's definitely maturing. So he's one guy that definitely stands out to me. Another guy to me that kind of stands out are 2 guys that are in a healthy competition. I think DJ Campbell and Cam Williams, they're both working hard on the offensive line and showing some positive things there. And then I'd say the last guy that makes sense to me that has definitely shown up, a guy who wasn't a frontline starter for us a year ago, but I think is kind of assuming that role of that guy, has been Byron Murphy on the defensive line. He's been a force here early on in spring that you feel his presence, and he's tough to block. He creates a lot of negative plays and is really strong at the point of attack.
Anwar, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, last year around this time, you were really concerned about your offensive line depth, so much to the point that you kind of altered the spring game for that, just because you didn't want guys to get hurt and so on and so forth. A year later, where are we as far as that depth is concerned? Can you talk about, I know you mentioned DJ Campbell and Cam, but some of the other young guys and how they're developing? And also, will you go back to that traditional spring game format this year?
Yeah. I feel a lot better about the depth on the offensive line. Just sheer numbers alone, the last 2 years, we signed 12 offensive linemen, right? So just from a sheer numbers perspective, definitely feel more comfortable there. I think it is a talented group. They're obviously big, but the one thing that they're going through is the growing pains of being young players, and learning the fundamentals of techniques to go along with the scheme, and then trying to block good players on the other side of the ball. And as they're working themselves through it, you take the small victories and then you try to build off of those small victories and keep getting better and better and better. But other guys that have shown things that, again, we're returning 5 starters. With Cole being out this spring, it's created some opportunities for some other players. But you look at a NATO, who to me is showing growth throughout spring. You look at a Malik Ogbo, who's showing growth throughout spring. Looking at some of the younger players that are just arrived, I think that, whether it's a Connor Stroh or a Andre Kojo or a Peyton Kirkland and some of these other younger players that are in here now too. And I hate leaving all these guys out. They're all making progress. The key to the drill is trying to find ways where they can continue to build their confidence. Because if we just throw it all on them and throw them out there and they don't ever have any success, that ultimately can start to affect the psyche. But from a sheer number standpoint, definitely feel much better about it. Do we need to continue to improve to build that room to where, man, you feel comfortable about whether it's the first unit, the second unit, or the third unit, for them to go out and play at a high level? No question. But it does allow us, hopefully here in a couple weeks when we do play the spring game, to have a true game. I think everybody would prefer that and let the guys go compete and keep score and all that kind of good stuff. So right now, that's what the signs are pointing to, but I always hold reservation, because you never know what can happen over the next 2 weeks. Knock on wood, we stay healthy and we continue to get players back to where we can have a fun day on the 15th.
Danny, go ahead.
Steve, kind of going off Ed's question from earlier, how would you assess at the midway point how your early enrollees have kind of done this spring, and are any of those guys kind of standing out?
Yeah, I think they've all done well. I think this group came in as a whole with a really competitive mindset. Like I said, I think, whether it's intentional or not, a lot of them are winners. They expect to win. They want to compete. They want to do it at a high level. And all of them, to some degree, have flashed, right, in some way, shape, or form. Obviously some guys that, to my opinion, have been a little bit more consistent. I think Cedric Baxter has been very good. I think Anthony Hill's been very good. I think DeAndre Moore has been very good. Jonte's done some really nice things. Malik Muhammad's done some nice things. Leon Galafal's done some nice things. Sadir Mitchell figuring it out, but man, you feel his presence. He's such a big guy. Obviously what Arch has done, 8 practices as a quarterback in our system. It's not easy. We take the training wheels off day one and you got to learn how to ride this bike. And so all of it is like, man, are we just are we getting better from one practice to the next? And are we correcting the issues that were an issue in practice 7? And did we get better at those things in practice 8? Because we're constantly throwing not only install at them, and not only are they having to go against the other side of the ball, which is install, but now we're into the special situations of the game. And so now they're trying to tie all that together and still use the right fundamentals and techniques and play with the right effort. So, there's going to be some growing pains, but there's been some guys that have really showed us some things that, man, these guys are probably going to contribute this fall. To what degree, we don't know yet, but they're definitely high level players who are very competitive, who want to be good. And they're trying to earn their way on the field.
Bob, go ahead.
Hey, Sark, what are some of the biggest challenges in the running back room? As you try to figure out who the guys are there that are going to take over for Bijan and Roshan. And do you need somebody to really grab this thing by the horns and kind of show that they're the leader, or how do you see this thing playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I think twofold. Obviously, with Keelan and Jonathan Brooks being limited has been in some ways a good thing. Those were our most experienced. We had a lot of information on those two guys, so it's allowed Jaden Blue, it's allowed Cedric Baxter, it's allowed Savion Red, these guys more opportunities to figure them out. And one of the challenges at running back that makes it difficult is we can't go live every day, right? We won't make it as a team, but the runners probably need the most live reps so that we can gather enough information as far as, can they take care of the football? Can they pass protect? Can they create explosive runs? Can they break tackles? And so that's the stuff we're really trying to dig into with these guys, is how do they look when we're really playing, and not just like in 7-on-7 or in drill work, because runners come alive when it becomes live, and we're trying to figure out who those guys are, who can pass protect for the quarterback, who's got a really firm understanding of what we're trying to do offensively. So that's always a challenge. At the end, we've got a long way to go to figure out, until, September of when we play. We got a lot of practice still to go. We've got a whole summer conditioning program to go through. So I'm not as pressed for somebody to just kind of take the bull by the horns right this second. Ultimately, by the time the games roll around, somebody's got to be the first guy to jog off the sideline when we break the huddle. But we'll figure that out. We have time for that. And if it's one, if it's two, what does that look like? Again, we've got really good coaches on staff. We'll figure that out. These guys are competing at a high level, and it's a very talented room. But I do think we have some time until we get to that point.
Thomas Jones, you're up.
Hey, Sark, Kyle Shanahan was among the visitors last week. How much of a chance did you get to talk X's and O's with a player, like Savion Red, considering what Kyle has done with Deebo Samuel? Yeah,
I think Kyle and I, we've known each other for a long time, probably over 20 years. And I think there's mutual respect for, what we do offensively. I think systematically we're very similar. Obviously the NFL game and the college game is a little bit different. So I always have studied Kyle. I've been studying him for, like I said, for 20 years. And he's, in my opinion, is one of the best in our industry at what he does and developing game plans and schematically and how he goes about it. I think he does a great job utilizing the personnel that he has. And Deebo's a prime example of that, of, the versatility he provides and then how he utilizes him in ways to get him the ball. And we have Savion Red. We have some other guys kind of similar in those traits too. And so whether it's scheme, whether it's personnel driven, we study him a lot, and we're always trying to find ways to get better. So it was great to have him in town, and we got a chance to visit, quite a bit.
Got time for a few last quick ones. Sam, go ahead.
Steve, I'm curious what you thought this spring of Kelvin Banks's progress, and obviously started all last year, but first true spring here. And what does his future look like here, not just this season, but long-term in this program?
Yeah. I mean, I think, Kelvin has always been a really mature young man. He's very serious about what he does, whether it's on the field or off the field. And this spring has been no different. He brings a workman-like mentality. He strives to get better. He's a highly competitive young guy that, when it doesn't go right for whatever the reason is, he wants to get it fixed and compete even at a higher level. And he obviously had a heck of a year last year as a true freshman to do what he did at left tackle. But I think he knows there's room for growth to get better. And I think he and Coach Flood have kind of laid that out this spring of areas for improvement of where he can go. And he goes for it. Kelvin really goes for it. But, you start as a true freshman, you're a freshman All-American, you got a pretty good career ahead of you, and how far can he take it? We'll see. But clearly, I don't know if you could get off to a better start than what he did in his college career. But again, he's not satisfied in that. And I think that's what's one of the beautiful things about Kelvin is that, man, he's hungry. He wants to be special. He wants to be great, and he works at it every day.
Chip, go ahead.
Steve, it sounds like you had some live action last Saturday. Can you give us a name or two on both sides of the ball that impressed you?
Man, that feels like a month ago, Chip. But
Should have asked
going
you
on.
with the Elite
There's
Eight.
a lot going on last weekend with the coaches clinic, junior day, Elite Eight. There was a lot happening, but I think all in all, last Saturday went well. I think first of all, we came out of it healthy, which is always a positive in spring. We want to tackle, we want to be physical. But you know, you're always mindful of injuries and what that could look like. I think that was the first part that stood out to me. You know, I think inevitably, I thought there was some real flashes in the pass game. I thought that there was some things that we've been working on in the passing game that was really effective for us. I think Terrence Brooks was a guy that kind of stood out that did some things last Saturday that showed up. Thinking through here of other things, that JT Sanders was good last Saturday and showed some things. But like I told the team, you know, I felt like we could have been better last Saturday, and that's my job, right? To say, hey, as we continue to grow and go, I'm always got to push you, and I got to keep pushing these guys to new heights and new heights and new heights. And, you know, when I told them when they came off the field, I said, hey, we were good today, but we could have been better, right? You guys have set a standard here that is very high. And they've worked to create that standard. And now our job is to meet that standard and then exceed it to create a new standard. And that was something I thought last Saturday where we could have went to another level and maybe we missed the mark just a hair. But it gives us another opportunity, you know, this Saturday to see how far we can take it.
Got time for two quick last ones. Terry, go ahead.
Good morning, Coach Sarkisian. So one of the weapons that you've had is your special teams. What are you seeing from them? What do you like? Is anybody standing out? What do you think of what's your comments on the depth of the kicking room?
Yeah, man, I think teams wise, as you guys know, we spend a good amount of time on it. I think Coach Banks does a great job schematically and fundamentally. I think our players have a real commitment to it. That's 2 years of emphasizing it. You know, naturally we have some core guys that are impactful on special teams. I think about Keaton Crawford. I think about Mo Blackwell. I think about Keelan Robinson. I think about Jaron Thompson. I mean, all these kind of guys have been core players for us on special teams. And the key to the drill is that those guys, in my opinion, here, the first half of spring, have set the tone of what's expected on special teams when we go to those periods. And we've got a lot of young, talented players that hopefully we can get out of them what we got out of those guys, so where they can earn their way on the field that way and have an impact on our team. But I think the intent's been really good on special teams right now. I think, you know, as we're navigating our way through punt team and punt return and kickoff coverage and field goals and things of that nature, that we're teaching really well. But then ultimately we're creating a competitive environment to where these guys can understand the value of special teams and how it can impact the game.
Last one, Justin, it's yours.
Thanks, Coach. The deep ball last year was a struggle for Quinn and a couple of the receivers in the group. Has there been an emphasis on getting more chemistry and more explosive plays down the field early on this spring?
Without question. You know, our offense doesn't quite work the way it's supposed to work if we don't hit some of those plays, you know, and you know, I don't expect us to be 100%. You know, anytime you throw a ball beyond 15, 20 yards, the percentage is naturally going to drop. But we try to create those opportunities down the field, and then finding that rapport of the deep ball, whether it's a post, a go, deep crossers, whatever they are, and how it complements themselves with the run game. And then the intermediate passing game is all critical to our success as an offense and then ultimately as a team. So that aspect of the game, as I've been touching on before spring ball, is a huge point of emphasis of ours. And I think that we're starting to see the benefits of it as we're getting into some of these live settings and the way we're throwing the ball and the way we're catching the ball down the field.